Washing your car properly is probably the single most important step that you can do for a successful PPF install. If your car is dirty, you're going to have a difficult time for the film to stick on the surface, and it's just not going to last as long. So this is going to be a little bit long module, but I want you to stick with me and pull through. But before we get started, let's talk about where to wash your car. If you have an indoor facility or you can wash indoors, that's the best way, but most of you won't have that. So if you're like me, you're going to be washing it outdoors. If you're washing it outdoors, make sure your car is parked in a shaded area, or you can wash it in the morning before the sun is out, or at the end of the day, like what we're doing right now. The other thing is, if it's an overcast day, that's actually one of the perfect times to wash your car. And the reason why we're doing that is because if the sun is beating down on the car, when you put your cleaning solutions on, it's going to dry. And when you dry, before you even get to it. So when that happens, it's just going to be a much more difficult process for you to prep your vehicle. So just make sure it's in the right place, and it'll make your work a lot easier. So let's talk about everything that we're going to be doing to the car before we even lay film on the vehicle. So the first step is going to be, we're going to do a full wash, and we're going to be using our car wash shampoo, and we're going to get rid of that first level surface contaminants and get it ready. Okay, the next step is we're going to be doing another wash, but this time we're going to be using our degrease, and it's also called prep. And the reason we're doing this is if you have wax or some sort of sealant, we're pretty much stripping that off and getting it to more of an OEM paint surface so that we can get it ready and lay film on. The next step is we're going to take that further, and we're going to do clay bar. And we have a fine grade clay bar, and since you've already done those two steps before you even got to that, you're going to make sure that you're not scratching your car when you do this process. And this will get rest of the contaminants on the surface paint, or the paint surface, and it'll ensure that so this step will make sure that you get the rest of the contaminants off the paint surface, and it'll just make it easier for your install. Okay. The next step is we're going to rinse off every solution out just one more time, and then after that, we're going to dry the vehicle and make sure that it's ready to go. And lastly, we're going to do something called edge prep. We're going to grab microfiber and your tack solution, your alcohol, and we're going to go over the edges so that it really holds when you wrap over the edges, for example, like in the hood. So let's get into it. So here's what you need for the first wash. First of all, you need 2 buckets because we're doing the 2 bucket method. And I have one for rinse, and then I have one for wash. Okay. Next, you also need a car wash shampoo that's included in the kit. And then you're going to be needing a wash mitt that's also included in the kit. And this is optional but highly recommended. You want a grit guard with a washboard, and what this does is it keeps the dirt at the bottom of the bucket, and this is a washboard, so you can kind of, I guess, clean out your mitt right here and then let the dirt drop to the bottom of the bucket. And then lastly, you want a garden hose, preferably something that has a spray jet. So before we get started, we're going to go ahead and clean out these buckets, okay? And it may be clean before, but you just want to make sure that it's completely clean. So we're going to go ahead and use the jet function and go ahead and just rinse it out. Do the same for the other one. Once it's clean, if you have a grit guard, go ahead and put it down the rinse bucket. Okay? And then we're going to go ahead and fill the whole rinse bucket about 3/4 up. Okay? Let's go ahead and fill it up. Now that the rinse bucket is filled up, we're going to go ahead and get the wash bucket ready. Just going to put this aside. And what you want is about 5 or 6 bloops. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do one more. And once that's in the bottom, it's real thick, go ahead and fill this up to about 3/4 as well. Since there's a lot of foam, I typically fill it up all the way, and that ends up being about 3/4. The reason why we do this is traditionally if you just get one bucket and then you use the same bucket to get your soap, put it on your car, rinse it, you're essentially putting back the dirt that you got from your car back to that same exact bucket. And when that happens, you have the risk of getting that contaminant and then maybe a rock or pebble or something like that gets stuck, and then you could actually scratch your car. But if you do this, you minimize the risk of doing that. So you have a wash, and this is only going to be wash. You're rinsing it in the rinse bucket and using that washboard, and then that grit guard keeps the dirt down, and then after that you have a lot less risk of scratching your vehicle. So that's the whole concept. Even though we're just doing the front PPF for this installation, we do recommend washing the whole entire car. And the reason why is because you don't want a lot of dirt around the surrounding areas. You may accidentally touch it, so you have a little bit of risk of getting dirt into your PPF. If your car is super dirty, I would recommend changing out these buckets every now and then, just to make sure that you're not putting back dirt, even though you have this grit guard. And if you don't have the grit guard, that's even more reason to maybe changing out your buckets. And lastly, let's talk about the order of the way we're going to be doing this. If you start washing your car from the bottom, which usually is the dirtiest portion, right? Mud gets fling in the bottom areas. And then you go to the top, you're essentially getting all that dirt and then putting it back on the top, right? So we start from the cleanest, which is typically the top, and then work our way to the bottom. And that's exactly why we do top to bottom. So let's go ahead and rinse this and get started. In the rinsing process, what you're really trying to do is trying to get rid of as much, bug guts or bird poop or anything without touching the car and with just water. So if you have a jet stream mode, that's what I would be using. And then try to get as much possible and then just get it wet, right? Because you need to have it wet before you start putting the wash and the car wash shampoo. The front bumper is probably where you're going to be having a lot of bug guts because it's a direct impact right here in the front, right? So this is where you're going to be using, again, the stream mode, and go ahead and wash that out. And one thing, if you notice, is I like to put it over my shoulder, so I'm never touching the car with my hose, right? So let's get started. You got a little bug gut right here. Now that the car is rinsed and nice and wet, it's ready to be washed. And we're going to do exactly what we talked about. We're going to do top to bottom, so we minimize the amount of dirt that can go back on your car. So when you have a wash mitt, just like this, get it nice and saturated. And when you go to the top, a lot of people try to force it, right? They try to put a lot of force, and that's really not what you want to do. The solution, the car wash shampoo, is what's going to break it down and eventually get it out, right? Get the dirt out. So you're just gonna glide across the back, just like that, the whole back, and go in straight lines like that. And then you could flip it, because I haven't used the other side, and you're gonna do the other side. But once you're done, you're gonna get this wash mitt, and I can already see some bird poop and dirt right here. You're gonna rinse it, use that washboard, and kind of wash it, right? Both sides, I really wanna get that. And then you're going to be inspecting it. You could put your hand here, just like that. You're just gonna be inspecting that wash mitt so there's no rocks or anything. And you're gonna go ahead and do that. And then we can put it back into the wash bucket, right? So the next step is we're gonna go ahead and wash the whole car with that method. We're gonna go to the side, and then we're gonna again work our way from top to bottom. We're gonna put the exact order that we want you to do it in. Follow along, we'll put some music. We'll see you once we're done. notice right when I got to here, I actually didn't go all the way at the bottom. And the reason why is this area is filthy. It's the dirtiest area. So I'm gonna wait a little bit, right? So once I get to that position, kind of stop, and then I do that last. Great job, we're done with the first wash section. We just need to rinse it off. And it looks way better already. But if you weren't able to get some spots, don't worry, we're gonna do another step. So don't go and try to rub it off, that's actually gonna cause more damage. So let's go ahead and rinse it off. I'm gonna just have it in a spray mode like that. I'm gonna go ahead, go from top to bottom, just the same. We're now at the second stage of the prep period, and that's degrease wash. And before you get started, I still have my buckets here that I used for that first wash, but we're gonna go ahead and clean it. So the first step that you want is, if you have jet stream, go ahead and clean your wash mitt before we get to it. So you just wanna hit it. And this is really, really important to make sure that it is clean. And we're gonna go and dump the wash bucket and use a jet stream again and clean this. And mainly, you're just trying to get rid of all the dirt that's in here out. So let's go ahead and get this out as well. Oops. If you have a grit guard, make sure you rinse that as well. Cool, I'm gonna leave that there. Great, now we're ready to get the solutions mixed. And this is essentially the same. It's a little bit more, I guess, accurate in terms of how much you should use. So if you have a brand new bottle, which is included, go ahead and remove that sealant. And what you want to do is fill this up first with water, just 3/4 all the way, just like before. So we're good with the water right here. And now what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be using 12 ounces. And just so you know, this is a 16-ounce bottle. So you're gonna be using most of it, but leaving a little bit left, okay? So you could either do it this way or, you know, press here and then go ahead and just spray. Kind of hard to see. Cool, that's about 4 ounces left, so we're good to go. And then you're gonna fill this, the wash bucket, with water as well. During the degrease process, it's essentially the same thing. You wanna put your clean microfiber mitt on here, and we're gonna go ahead and go lightly, just like that, and go down and just really go through. And then you're gonna flip and do the other side as well. And it's important to go in straight lines like this. And once you're there, you're gonna go ahead and dunk it, clean it, inspect it, and then go to the next section. So we're gonna go into the mirror, the fender, and then lastly, the bumper. Once you're done washing the area, we're gonna rinse it off just like we did earlier. Now that your car is super clean, it's time to dry it. Before we start clay barring, I'll talk about several methods of drying, and I'll talk about how I like to do it. And I like using a leaf blower, and this is my favorite way to do this because it's the easiest way to do it. And you just start from top to bottom as well. But if you don't have a leaf blower, that's all right. So I'm going to show you another way to do this. So you're going to grab a yellow microfiber that's also provided in the kit, and you're going to grab water and you're going to wet this, okay? And make sure you're using a clean microfiber. I'm going to grab another one. Good thing we provide 5. So make sure you're not on jet mode, and you're just going to wet this. Okay, and you're going to wring it out. Get it all dry. And I like just holding it like this and just going through the area like so. So you're gonna hold it like that and work your way around. And as you go, you're gonna go ahead and wring it out. Look how much water that was already. And you're gonna repeat the process as you finish. So you can see in the front, I still have a lot of moisture. So you're gonna go ahead and do that. I just finished the roof. You can see, look at all that water. And you're gonna complete the process and go all the way around until you are dry. And lastly, the third option is to use a giant drying towel, and these are specifically for that. And it has a lot of surface area and is super plushy. And what you wanna do, the same technique, you could either drag it across with 2 hands, or you could kind of tap it just like this and then wick up all the moisture. And you're going to be just repeating this process as you go along. So those are 3 ways. The microfiber is included if you have a leaf blower. That would be the easiest option, but typically I'll have to do that even after a leaf blower in some areas. While the car may look clean, there are still contaminants left here when you look at it at a very microscopic level. So this last step is really getting the last bit of that contamination, and we're using a clay bar. And there are different grades, but the one that we provide is actually a fine grade, which has the least chance of you scratching your car when you're doing this process. So before we get started, let's go ahead and get your bottle filled up. This is the tack bottle that is provided. And what you want to do is fill this up to 700 ml with distilled water. In my case, my water is actually filtered, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. Once you have 700 ml, you're gonna be using the prep wash, and you're just gonna bring this up to 800. So you're gonna just use 100 ml of prep wash. There you go. You're just gonna swirl it a little bit and just go up and down just a couple of times. And now our solution is ready for clay bar. For this step, this is optional. You could actually use the provided gloves in the kit. But since this concentration is quite low, it won't necessarily be harmful, so you don't have to worry about it. But if you have sensitive skin, it might be better to be using gloves. We're gonna go ahead and open up the clay bar, and it does come with a case, in this case. And we're gonna grab a good chunk out of it. Okay, what you're gonna do is you're gonna knead it just like this, and you're gonna flatten it a little bit. And what you wanna do is use a solution and wet your fingers and the clay. The number one thing is you need to keep this area lubricated before you actually put clay on the surface. So we're gonna go ahead and spray this, and as I'm spraying, you're gonna gently run it over. And if you're not wearing gloves, what I like to do is I like to feel it. And you could feel that it's rough, and you'll feel that it stops if it's feeling something. So just make sure as you're going, you're gonna go ahead and spray. And then as you're going, you're gonna inspect. And then I'm gonna flip it and do the other side. Once you're done with that panel, you're gonna go ahead and knead it again. And then you're gonna go ahead and feel it, okay? And when you feel it, it's gonna feel rough if it's not clay barred. Right now it feels really, really smooth, and you can see that it's still lubricated. Just make sure you're really getting even, especially that body line, right? Especially right here. And I didn't do back there, so I'm gonna go ahead and clay that area. Great. And we also need to do headlight, since we are going to be covering that as well. As long as you're spraying frequently, you'll be fine. But the main thing is it's okay to overspray, and make sure that every, I guess, 2x2, you're inspecting your clay and then kneading it again. If it gets way too dirty, you have a whole bar, so go ahead and don't be too stingy and go ahead and use another one. You can throw it away. You have plenty enough for the whole car. So the order doesn't matter, but the way I'm going to be doing is I got the fender done. I'm going to go ahead and do the mirror. I'm going to do the other fender, the hood, and then lastly I'm going to be doing the bumper. So let's go ahead and we'll see you when you're done. So if you're trying to do this in sunlight, this is going to be a problem. I would be rinsing it more frequently, but since I have no sun right now, it's already dusk. I don't have an issue. I could do the whole front area, and then I can go ahead and rinse it. And the other thing is I actually did it from top to bottom too, because even though we washed it, you're still going to have more risk of the dirt being at the bottom. So I did that last. So I worked my way so that when my clay also gets dirty, I'm okay and we're all the way at the end. everything rinsed, you could kind of see some of that suds while I was rinsing it, and we're gonna have to dry it again. And the reason why we dried it and then we did this, you know, you're probably asking why, is because we did wash the whole car. So you wanna make sure that you dry all the surrounding areas at the least before you get here, because what happens is if it's during daylight and there's still the sun, it's gonna dry and it can cause some water spots. And that's kind of why we did that drying process a little bit earlier. So we're gonna use the same process, the damp microfiber, and we're gonna go ahead and run our microfiber all the way through, and you can see how much water that hood had right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the rest of them. I know that was a long process, but we're there. We just have one more step to do. So go ahead, once the car is dried, we're gonna bring it into your garage and we're gonna do the edge prep. Whew, we're finally inside, and wow, I know that was long, but you're doing a great job. We have one last step to do, and this part is very important. Our kit actually goes over the edges, especially for the hood. So it's really important to do this edge prep. So we're gonna start with the hood and I'll walk you through what we're gonna be doing for each of the panels, right? So we're gonna be doing the hood, we're gonna show you the fender, the mirror while we're there, and then the bumper. And we're gonna show you what we need to do, okay? So first of all, let's go ahead and open up the front. And once that's open, these edges right here is most likely gonna be very, very dirty. We don't typically wash that area. So what we're gonna be doing is you're gonna grab your tack solution. And if you need a reminder, we typically do 800 ml with distilled water, and then we fill it up all the way to 1,000 ml with the alcohol provided in your kit. So this is gonna be your tack solution, and that's gonna have that alcohol to really, really clean out those edges. So what you're gonna be doing is you're gonna grab your microfiber and spraying some of that, and you're gonna be grabbing the edges with your fingers and then just going down the edges like so. Especially that corner, really focus on that. And you can see immediately right here we got some dirt, right? And sometimes it gets dirty. So we're gonna go around every single part of the edge, including the back. This is very, very important to do. And as you're going through that, you're gonna be spraying more alcohol and making sure you're getting all those edges. And that's all you have to do for the hood. For the fender, you're gonna be using a pink squeegee that's provided with your squeegee set as well. And this is called the Little Chitzler. It's really nice. You wanna wrap that squeegee right here with the microfiber, like so. And we're gonna get the edges. And the reason why we get all these surrounding edges is because there might be some dirt buildup. So when you're spraying slip solution and other things around that area, it could potentially bring down the dirt and then eventually end up in your film. So this part's really important. We're gonna start around the autopilot area. We're gonna spray some tack solution in there, and you're just gonna go around the edges just gently right there. You don't wanna pop this out or anything like that. You're gonna grab that, and you can see there's a little bit of dirt build up right there, and you're gonna find a different part of the microfiber. And if the microfiber is super dirty, go ahead and switch it out and get a new one. We're gonna do the same thing over here, spray that, and go right here near the door, and go all the way down. And look at that grime. That's just from the side and the bottom as well. So that dirt buildup when you're working around the area can potentially go in your film, and this is why we're doing this. We're gonna go ahead and do this edge right here. And this one's pretty easy access. And then lastly, that wasn't too dirty, we're gonna go ahead and go in the inside right here as well. And honestly, you could actually leave the front open and then you could get more deeper inside there as well. We're also gonna be focusing on this line and then headlight and all the edges. So we're gonna continue to travel across the microfiber and go ahead and just push through. You don't have to go too hard, and then go around that area and really getting that edge. And then I got that. You can see there's a little bit of that dirt. Okay. And lastly, I'm going to just show you that one side. We're also going to clean this fender well area, right? The wheel well. And this is going to be the dirtiest section. You actually don't need the squeegee. I like doing that part last, but I'm going to go ahead and show you. Spray a good bit, and I start from the middle and get that. And then go all the way down, okay? And one thing to note is I'm actually not cleaning. If you have the opportunity, I would definitely clean that area, but we're not wrapping around the edges. However, again, this is just taking that precaution so that none of that dirt can go back to your film. So that pretty much sums it up for the fender, and we're gonna go straight into the mirror. For the mirror, it's pretty simple. We're gonna grab our pink squeegee again, find a clean part of your microfiber, spray more of your tack solution, and we're gonna go under this area. Any dirt collected, we got. And then we're going to take it out of that and spray more tack solution. Just go ahead and go over that top edge as well. And those are the two main edges, and there's still a little bit of dirt. Those are the two main edges that you're going to be going for the mirror. And lastly, we got the bumper. And I showed you in the fender, we're going around all the edges. So I'm going to show you this half side, and you're going to repeat it on the other side as well. Before we get started though, just go ahead and inspect your microfiber. If it's dirty all around, make sure you get a brand new one, or maybe a little bit. It doesn't have to be a brand new one, but it just needs to make sure that there's not enough like massive dirts like that. So I'm going to find an area again, and we're going to go ahead and start with this edge. And it will be easier actually if you open up the frunk. So we can go ahead and do that. And before we do the squeegee technique, we're going to go ahead and spray into our microfiber, and we're going to go ahead and just get that edge right here. And you can see just by doing that, it's already phenomenally dirty. Even though we washed the car, it's really hard to get around that areas too. We already did this with the fender, and then we want to get around the headlight as well. So this is where the squeegee technique again comes into play. We'll go ahead and spray, and then go ahead and get under that. We also did that side as well. And then you want to get around the headlight area as well. So, sorry, the fog light, not the headlight. You do want to get around the headlight too though. So we got that clean, and that's how dirty that area is. And then after that, that's really the edges that you're going to be working on. But lastly, we're also going to get to the edge on the sides as well. So you notice that I did this area last as well, just like I did with the fender. I'm going to go ahead and spray some, and I'm going to focus on that real edge, and I'm going to go over it with my fingers, and then you can see how dirty that is. For the bumper piece, it actually doesn't go all the way around the edges, but again, we're minimizing the dirt and have the chance for it to go back to your film when you're actually installing. A couple other areas that you need to watch out for is you actually have the tow hook right here. You can go ahead and clean it. You're going to do the same thing just like you did with the pink squeegee, and you're going to go around that area as well. You can see there's a little bit of dirt. This area right in that front bumper bottom lip area, you're going to do the same thing with the squeegee. Spray that and just focus on that edge and just try to really clean that area as well. And you can see there's a little bit of dirt as well. So this process is just, we're continuously minimizing the amount of dirt, and I can't stress that enough. I probably said it multiple times, but I do that on purpose because it's all about dirt control and contamination control. So that's pretty much it for edge prep. We are finally ready to go. Thank you guys so much for your patience, and I swear it's going to be worth it. Your Tesla is going to be protected, and let's get to the next part.